And while you continue to create, I'm going to talk about the principles of the universe. You can see a summary of these on page 2 of your workbook. Now, today is a high-level introduction of these Hermetic principles, and we'll talk about 7 principles today. And then we'll take a deeper dive when we go into Soul Artist Experience 2.0. The reason I'm introducing these principles at a high level now with a deeper dive later is because if these laws happen to be new to you, it's helpful to have some time to let these ideas percolate. If I say a word or a phrase that resonates with you, you can include it in what you are creating. These ancient principles have been handed down over centuries, and they're known as Hermetic laws or cosmic laws or universal principles. And wisdom traditions have interpreted these laws according to their various belief systems. As I went on what I call my vision quest, I had the insight that just having some space to think about these concepts is an amazing gift. I was kind of a late bloomer, so even the discovery that these laws existed was thrilling for me and kind of blew my mind. So as I said, the principles are summarized in your workbook on page 2, and today we're going to talk about the principle of mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and the principle of gender. And I'm going to start with the principle of mentalism. So this first principle states that the universe is mental and thoughts become tangible. Our world is created from our perceptions, our thoughts, feelings, ideas, beliefs, biases, and points of view. I think about it this way. Billions of humans with different perspectives share the planet. The Sufi story about the blind men and the elephant explains that one feels the elephant's ear and describes the creature as flat and thin. Another one is touching the leg and says, no, the creature is thick like a cylinder. Another one grasps the tail and says, no, the elephant is like a rope. Each one, within the limited context of their own finite senses, describes an incomplete piece of the whole. The metaphor is like us. In entering embodied life, we enter into the community of living beings. I believe that each embodied soul is a piece of divinity attempting to learn and become just as we are, each of us with unique perspectives, each of us with free will, each capable of and allowed to make mistakes. Our beliefs are created from our perceptions, and sometimes our perceptions are narrow, confined, or limited. Often the real answer, the larger story, is broader, and the scope is bigger than we perceive with our senses. The central idea of the principle of mentalism in most wisdom and mystical traditions, and even in quantum physics, is that there's a oneness among all creatures. We are all connected. Everything and everyone is part of that whole. One of my favorite poems is John Donne's Devotions Upon Emergent Occasions, which starts, "No man is an island of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent." And it ends with, "Never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." The ancient teaching is that we're all one. We are all connected, not only to each other, but to all of nature and to everything in the universe. What we do to others, we do to ourselves. Let's take the notion of mentalism one step further. To create your ideal reality, you have to master your own thoughts, and it's an inside job. To obtain wisdom, you have to go within. The Buddha said, "We are what we think." All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. The energy of your thoughts dance out into space and create a vibrational matrix. You can choose your thoughts and discipline them to create new thought patterns and paradigms. My teachers taught me, and I now believe that it's possible to experience happiness, true love, health, creative expression, abundance, wealth, and anything else by bringing yourself into vibrational harmony through the creative power of your thoughts. This idea of harnessing your thinking is linked to the law of mentalism. The concept of abundance is also linked to this law of mentalism. The thinking is what we believe we can receive, we do receive. If we believe in scarcity or lack, that's what we experience. If we believe in abundance, we experience abundance. The premise of one of my favorite books, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, is that we are in partnership with the universe, in the joyous creation of our lives? What if more people believe that there's enough food, enough love, enough compassion, wellness, and resources for all of us? What if elevating our own thoughts is a gift we can give the world, and through that, others' thinking can also rise to be more grateful, more conscious, respectful, and joyful? This feels especially relevant right now when so many are feeling uncertain, fearful, frustrated. We can elevate our own vibration through our thoughts and help the world. That's the principle of mentalism. Again, we go deeper in the 2.0 course, and when we dive more deeply, I'll be asking you to find ways to express your understanding of these different laws in your art journal. Now, why do I do that? Because it's good for your brain to think like an artist and ask yourself, how might I depict this idea of us all being connected, of us all being part of a whole? What kind of image might I look for to put in my art journal that is symbolic for me of the idea that we're all part of the same energy, and the idea that our thoughts are things, the idea that what we believe we can receive, we do receive, that there's enough abundance for everyone, that we're in partnership with the universe in the creation of our lives. I think this really stretches you and makes you think when you ask yourself, how would I begin to convey this artistically? And that's why it's good to have some soak time, knowing that in the 2.0 course, I will be asking you to find ways to dive deeply into these concepts and more. The second principle we're going to talk about today is the law of correspondence. I love this law. It really resonates with me because it contains the idea of having perspective, the notion that each life lesson has many layers, and the idea that we shape our own reality by our thoughts. Looking at a situation from every angle to appreciate all sides is part of the idea, like seeing the beauty and the intricacy of a Moroccan rug, which looks different from every angle. Our current situation is a direct result of the way we think. If we want to shift our lives, we have to shift our thoughts. You really have control over only one thing in life, your thinking. When you change your thought patterns to focus on what you truly desire, you can bring about meaningful and lasting change. When a painter has an image of what she wants to paint, the image exists in her mind. When she expresses it in the canvas or in her art journal, there's something of the artist there too. The mental thought pattern becomes something tangible, from unseen to seen. And this law of correspondence speaks to what is seen and unseen. So much is unseen: the past, the future, conscious awareness, the spiritual dimension, the boundless realm of your soul. Some things that are unseen we now fully accept: electricity, radio waves, microwaves, the cloud that stores our photos and documents. All of this would have seemed like magic 200 years ago. We can't see it, smell it, touch it, but we believe it exists. So why would we balk at believing the mystical forces in the universe? The law of correspondence tells us that our outer world is just a reflection of our inner world, as within, so without, as above, so below. Our reality is a mirror of what is going on inside of us. Is our inner reality happy, centered, integrated, and fulfilled? If it is, then that's what the world will see. If your inner life holds a more expansive view of the larger unseen spiritual or intuitive dimension that lies beyond conscious awareness, then the door will be opened to vast new worlds. That's the law of correspondence. The next law we'll talk about is the law of vibration, and that states that everything in the universe moves and vibrates. People, animals, plants, trees, tables, cars, rocks. Our thoughts, our emotions, everything is vibrating at one speed or another. Energy is always vibrating in motion. You can't create it, you can't destroy it, but you can transform it by exchanging one thought for another or one habit for another. All the energy that exists now has always been in existence in some form. A wooden spoon was once a tree, before that it was a seed, before that it was another tree. The law of vibration says that we draw to us or attract energies similar to our own. Birds of a feather flock together. When you think positive thoughts, you attract more positivity and vice versa. Like attracts like. What you think about, you tend to bring about. Every thought, emotion, or mental state has a corresponding vibration. There is a field of energy vibration called the aura that surrounds sentient beings. Our body's vibration creates that aura, and our thoughts and how we are processing life govern it. It's universal. Everyone has an aura. And the field vibrates faster or at a higher rate around those who function on higher levels of conscious awareness versus those who move through life on automatic pilot. Like attracts like. That's the law of vibration. Again, we'll go deeper in the 2.0 course. The fourth law that we're going to talk about today is polarity, and that recognizes that there are multiple dimensions to things. Things that appear as opposites are only two extremes of the same thing, like heat and cold, love and hate, war and peace. It's possible to transform your thoughts from hate to love, from fear to courage, by raising your vibration. Between two extremes, everything exists on a spectrum with an infinite number of points. The difference between heat and cold is only a matter of degree. There's no place on a thermometer where heat stops and cold begins. The same is true between east and west, light and dark, large and small, good and bad. You don't have to deal with things in absolutes. An implication of this law of polarity is the notion of infinite possibilities. There are always more options if you look deeply and with enough perspective. I think it's always interesting to look back on life decisions with greater perspective and realize how many times it seemed like there were only two options available: yes or no, in or out, move or stay. There are always more possibilities if we look deeply enough or we change perspective. Also, in the law of polarity, we see that within every problem lies the solution, and within failure lies success. Babe Ruth held the world record for the most home runs and the most strikeouts. We can only really recognize success when we have experienced failure. And ultimately, you stop looking at the world with eyes that see failure and success, and you further realize that you just have results. A further step in the law of polarity means that all the wisdom you need already exists inside you. It's all there within. You just have to get to the level of consciousness to finally believe and trust that the journey begins inside, and all the maps and tools you need for the whole trip are also within you. You begin to see solutions within problems, gifts within challenges, opportunities in conflicts. This is the law of polarity. And next we talk about the law of rhythm. This is the idea that there's a season for everything, a flow, a natural order. Daily, monthly, seasonal, annual cycles influence the tides, our bodies, all of nature. In science, they say for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. The pendulum swings in everything. Think about waves of the ocean, the rise and fall of empires, business cycles, financial markets, personal successes and failures. In accordance with this law, when anything reaches the point of culmination, then the backward swing begins almost unnoticeably until such time that any forward movement has been reversed, and then the forward movement begins again, and the process is repeated. I had a recent insight about the law of rhythm for myself. For years, I lived life keeping my emotions in check and suppressing my creativity and my voice. I needed to feel that I was in control. And now I see that sense of being in control as a false sense of safety. I always had the feeling that somewhere inside me, the emotional pendulum wanted to swing more wide and more free and experience and express more, as though my soul was seeking freedom, encouraging that feeling and expression of ideas. And now I see that I got several wake-up calls over the years, because the soul will find a way to be heard. And the farther back you pull the string on the bow and arrow, the further forward the arrow will fly. In creating, in our art journals, we explore our own rhythms, our own energies and flows. And I'll speak for myself and my own experience. Creating helps me see ways to keep myself in alignment and to have more balance and harmony within myself, because I'm expressing myself. It's like I can tune into my own sense of self and ride my own jet stream. And that makes me feel more like I'm expressing my divine essence, giving life to ideas that come from my intuition, which makes me feel like I have a closer connection to spirit or source, or however you think about that force greater than yourself. It almost feels magic, tapping into our own rhythm through creativity. We're connecting with our intuition, feeling the rhythm and the pulse of our co-creative partner, and letting our rhythms dance together, the law of rhythm. And now I want to talk about the law of cause and effect. This is the sixth law we're going to talk about today, and the law of cause and effect tells us that every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. The New Testament expresses it as, "Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." The law is often referred to as the law of karma. In Sanskrit, karma is the concept of action or deed. There's a continuity between all events, precedent, consequent, and subsequent. A relationship exists between what's gone before and what follows, or you get back what you send out. The choices and decisions you make sets in motion a chain of reactions, and that gives you back a result corresponding to whatever that decision triggered. In accordance with this law of cause and effect, every effect noticed in the physical world has a very specific cause, which has its origin in the inner or mental world. Every thought, every word, every action sets a specific effect in motion, which will come to materialize over time. The implication of this is that there's nothing like chance or luck. My teachers tell me that in the spiritual plane, cause and effect are instant. But in the real material world, our concept of time and space creates a time lag between the cause and the eventual effect. The idea is that when you focus on a goal with intention, what you want to create in the physical world is automatically manifested in the spiritual world. And with perseverance, practice, and continued concentrated thought, it will also come to materialize in the physical world. Remember that in the imagination exercise to come. Humans process experiences and react. We label things good and bad. But some people understand that we can alter our reality by changing our thoughts. Think of veterans that are now physically challenged with injuries and people who have survived a dreaded disease or a horrible loss. Some actually say that the experience changed them in a positive way. Now, these are really glass half full people. They sculpted their own mental transformation. They changed the way they looked at the situation, the way they summed it up. The ones who inserted and developed this changed perception overcame their ego in some way. Everything that's happening to us is a signal of the way we're processing the circumstance, the present moment. Our past experiences, memories, desires create our current experience. We're able to choose the way we respond to any given life situation. We have choice. Our ego likes to give up power to other people so it can then become a victim. But if we live in spirit versus ego, we can be fearless, immortal, living abundant lives. In ego, we come from lack, from fear. But if we realize we're not our body, we're not our possessions, we're not our personality, we're not our job title, then we can live a more conscious life. To live more consciously, we have to witness ourselves becoming the seer who can dispassionately view ourselves making decisions and choices, and that makes it possible to change our thinking in order to alter our reality. Meditation is a conscious action that we can take to repave your neural pathways and be able to witness your decisions and choices and change your thinking. So this is a little about the law of cause and effect. The law of gender is the last of the 7 laws that we're going to cover today, and it reminds us that yin and yang are in everything. Everywhere in nature we see both feminine and masculine aspects of plants, animals, and minerals. It takes both sides to create or reproduce in nature. There has to be a balance between masculine energies like assertive action and feminine energies like reflection and collaboration and contemplation. People who are in balance with both their masculine and feminine energies move forward with more thoughtful action, and that breeds success. So within this law also resides the notion of everything happening in its own time. There's a natural gestation period for all things. It takes 9 months for a child to develop in the womb. All seeds have to germinate before they sprout up. Ideas, hopes, and dreams need time to develop before they blossom. This is the law of gender. So that's a very brief overview of the Hermetic principles, and we will be taking a deeper dive into these in the 2.0 course. And then I will ask you to create art journal pages for the laws that really resonate with you. By exploring them creatively, you'll come to understand these principles on a deep level, and you will learn to harness these principles to live more of life at your best. These laws or principles help me realize that there is some type of cosmic order that we can tap into to make more sense of things and see the larger story of life. And it makes me believe that if we can harness our own thoughts, if we can see the potential that exists within us, if we understand the power of attracting positivity, then we begin to see the infinite possibilities within us, and we live a more full spectrum life where we're very conscious of our choices and we achieve greater balance. One of my teachers, Jean Houston, says humans only use a fraction of our capabilities, and this really inspires me. It's something I think about every day. What if we could use more of our capacity? Jean talks about tapping into the inner reservoir of creativity. When somebody feels held back or they have limiting beliefs about their abilities, they're self-critical, they worry a lot, or they have fears that keep them from realizing their potential, there may be something there that is being suppressed. I believe that when we tap into our hidden creativity, that helps us unleash our greater capacity, restore balance, integration, vitality, and wholeness. For me, when I'm creating, I feel like I'm living a more full spectrum life. When you are creating, you open up a whole new dimension of possibility in your life. So now that you've added your last layer, when you next add to your art journal, check in with your intuitive sense. See what is calling you. You can add more texture. You could write more words. You can add marks in different colors, mandalas, doodles. You could use a stencil. You may want to stand some distance away from your journal. Get a little perspective. See if you can tune into your gut and see what's calling you. And as you finish that up, I'm going to explain our next exercise. So the next exercise will be in the workbook, and that will give your piece a chance to dry.